Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. This is Jessie Birch with Ross Strategic, and we are supporting today's community service programs for water and wastewater utilities webinar. This is the second in a series on the subject. Before we get started, we just wanted to run through a couple of logistics, so bear with me. Just to let everyone know, this webinar is being recorded, and a copy of that recording will be shared after the webinar. You may have noticed that you are in listen-only mode, and that is to just manage the background noise. However, we would like to welcome questions throughout the webinar, and you can submit those through the chat function in the webinar dashboard. We'll go through how to do that in just a moment. A reminder, the presentations and the recording information will be sent after the webinar, and for those of you who stay on for the duration of the webinar, you will qualify for Professional Development Hour credits through WEF, and we'll share that information at the end of the webinar as well. To open and close your control panel, you can use this orange button here at the top, and to submit questions for presenters, go ahead and enter those into the bottom under the questions section, and we'll receive those. We will have a full Q&A session at the end of both presentations, at the end of the session. So feel free to submit those throughout, and we'll hold questions until the last 40 minutes of the webinar. With that, I'd like to pass it over to Jim Horn for his opening remarks.
Good afternoon or good morning, as Jessie said, everyone. This is Jim Horn. I'm with the Office of Wastewater Management at EPA, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar as well. I'd also like to thank our two partnering agencies or organizations, the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, known as NACWA, and the Water Environment Federation, WEF. It's great to work with those folks, and we do that all the time here in my office, and we very much appreciate their support for this webinar series. As Jessie said, this is the second in a series of webinars that the three organizations are putting up together, really about the broad topic of community service in communities led by utilities around the country. As many of you know, for the longest time, the kind of the paradigm in the water and wastewater industry for utilities was kind of out of sight, out of mind. Don't reach out too much to the community. Do your job, do it quietly, and focus on kind of what goes on within your fence line. And that's fine, but as more and more people around the country are taking an interest in the kinds of services that are provided to them in their communities, water and wastewater probably being the most important of those, it's becoming more and more important for these utilities to begin to reach out proactively to people in their community. Not only to stress the importance of the service that they provide, which is excellent, but also to put kind of a human face, if you will, on what can sometimes feel like daunting institutions, utilities that are sometimes hard to reach. So what we're going to focus on today with our two presentations are some really interesting efforts in two metropolitan areas, one in Louisville with the Louisville and Jefferson County Metropolitan Sewer District, that really talks about efforts of a team of people to go out into communities that were pre-selected because of previous issues they had had with wastewater challenges, and really begin to help people, talk to people, explain to them the kind of programs that MSD has that can help them. And the second part of that joint presentation by Louisville will really be an effort to engage the community in how to make the most effective use of some land that has become available due to flooding concerns in the past. So that will be a joint presentation from Louisville. Following that will be a presentation from Lisa Van Riper, who with the Alexandria Renew Enterprises utility here in the DC area. Alex Renew, as it's called in short, is really an example of an urban utility in a relatively prosperous community that because of many concerns has really taken the stance of reaching out and embracing the community that it serves, communicating, letting them know who you are, letting them know the value of the services that you provide, because, you know, let's face it, you need the public support. through the political process and through the decision-making process that will ultimately affect what you need to do to continue to provide those water and wastewater services. So today's webinar is a little bit different, and I hope you enjoy it. I think it really shows the value of collaborating and reaching out to the community, again, to put that human face on the important work that you do. And so we'd like to lead off first with Sandra Gibson and Stephanie Laughlin, as I said, from Louisville MSD. And again, as Jesse said, please submit questions throughout the webinar, and I hope you enjoy this and get a lot of interesting information that you can use back at your organization. So with that, let me turn it over, I think, first to you, Sandra, and thanks for being on the webinar today.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting us to do this webinar. Let me get this screen. How do I? Okay. Hang on here. We gotta get the screen right. Can you all see our screen?
I can see your screen.
Okay. All right. So the program that I'm going to talk about today is one that MSD joined along with the mayor. Our mayor, Mayor Fisher, took a trip to Buffalo, New York to observe a program that they have there that involves a lot of their local utilities and other entities of the area joining together and going out into different neighborhoods, making a presence and offering services on the spot. So MSD joined in with this initiative in 2016, actually, and it was really launched larger last year. And we brought on many employees. Our team usually comprised of about 12 people. And we took this opportunity to make a presence as a sewer utility, because often a lot of the things we have are we get complaints or we get sewer concerns and issues, and there's nothing really positive a lot. So this is a good time for us to get out and really make a presence in the community. As far as the program itself, it just brings a huge team of city workers together, and we go into neighborhoods with systemic challenges, and we do a cleanup and a build-up session. And I'm going to refer to the Building Our Blogs as I talk. I'm going to refer to it as the BOB initiative. So the BOB initiative brought together on average about 16 Louisville Metro government agencies, and along with community leaders and other organizations that partner together to make this happen. And then while there are many tasks that these various agencies perform every day, the real goal for this is bringing everyone together in a targeted area of the community. It provides the opportunity to tackle challenges all at once while also giving the neighborhood some positive attention. So the way that the BOB determines the neighborhoods to canvass is working collaboratively with partner organizations and community leaders, and using this information to identify different neighborhoods. And the areas that we target are, like, for instance, we call them hotspots, are different things that come in, like for 311 calls, for MSD would be drainage-related requests, stolen carts, junk violations, and illegal dumping. So this is sort of the criteria we use to determine what neighborhoods we're going to canvass. So for last year, using that criteria, we came up with 11 different neighborhoods that had huge assessment needs. And so this map was developed to actually identify those hot spots. And from those 11 neighborhoods, there were 7 initially selected to be done in the year for 2017. So then once these neighborhoods are selected, the community leaders are also consulted and talk to them about what the needs are in the neighborhood. And then the BOB core team also meets to determine the central meeting place where the volunteers will meet within that neighborhood. We talk about handouts for the event, what equipment may be needed. And then the neighborhood themselves, the people who live in those neighborhoods, they are also informed that this event is coming up. And we usually do that through the district council person, where they might have a newsletter that they put the information in, and then there's also the community meetings that this is brought up. So just a quick run through of how or what happens at a BOB event. It actually begins, usually it's always on a Friday, once a month, March through October. And volunteers will meet at that location that's been selected. We arrive at 9 o'clock, everyone gets signed in. The council representative for that neighborhood will be there, and they will have some opening remarks and welcome everyone and just talk about the needs that are in that neighborhood, and they express usually their appreciation at that time. And then the teams all the volunteers are broken up into 2 large teams. And the purpose of that is as we go through a neighborhood, one team is on one side of the street and the other team's on the other side. So the team is provided with maps, they're provided with cleanup materials, which is bags, things like that. And then we canvass the neighborhood, and this could easily be, in a neighborhood, it could be 200 plus homes that we hit in that one event. Then the event will wrap up around noon with lunch, and then there would be a breakout session after that. Goodness, I'm so sorry. I think it's very sensitive. I apologize, but this thing is so sensitive. Yeah, let me use it. Okay. This is an example of one of the flyers that we hand out during our BOB event. And what it is we have other programs at MSD that often many of our neighbors and community people do not know about. So one of the things that's listed on this list, we call this our environmentally friendly programs. And we have a program called a pumping modification program, which is where if you have regular draining in your basement or something like that, you could qualify to have a sump pump put in your basement, and this is at the MSD's cost, not that resident. They would have to call into customer service and get the packet sent to them, get 3 quotes. But this is a program that a lot of people don't know about, and it's something that's not a cost to them. We also have a downspout disconnect program, which when we go through these neighborhoods, which a lot of them are your older neighborhoods, some of these homes still have their downspouts that go down into the ground. And today that's not the way that's supposed to work. So we have a program that it's an incentive. If you remove that, take that out of the ground, we will pay you $100. And then we also have information we provide to residents about our rain gardens that we can assist with helping you build, which is a way to help deal with rainage and runoff that's around in your home. So one of the other things that happens when we're out there is there are a couple of people designated as trackers. They will collect data, and all the data that's collected mainly is what type of service requests were asked of us, what types of things that people had problems with. This data is collected and is used, is put into report form. The mayor will use this information just to see how the program is going. MSD will use this information to use it for ways to improve what we do out there. This is from 2017. This is some data on the things that we did last year. We averaged about 12 members to a team. We cleaned a total of 385 catch basins throughout the neighborhood. This is one neighborhood. And we contributed to the collection of 13,000 pounds of junk and debris, 27 service requests. We were able to sign at least 13 residents up for either our senior citizen discounts or disconnect programs. At the end of the event, or that day, we all get together. This is like a picture of like the whole team. And what we have is a breakout session, and we take the time, at that time, we take time to write down the things that we felt went well that day, things that we felt need improvement, comments from neighbors out there where they give their feedback as well as what they thought could be better with what we did for that particular day. And this is just a little example of some of the things that some of the feedback that we get while we're out there. And we take this data, and the core team will meet prior to the following month of the next BOB. We will take that data and we will try to incorporate it as much as we can, where applicable, into the next BOB so that it works out well. And this is just a picture of the core team, and We were recognized last year by the mayor as having a very successful event throughout the 7 months, and he's going to move it forward, continue to move this forward every year so far. And that's what I've got. I am ready for any questions.
We'll take questions at the end of all of the presentations, Sandra, but thank you very much. That was very nice. I appreciate it. Let's switch over now to Stephanie Laughlin, who is the Infrastructure Planning Program Manager with Louisville MSD. Interesting presentation about how they are working with the community to address the best use of a parcel of land that's become available. So Stephanie, thanks, and over to you.
Yes, thanks so much. So this Maple Street Land Use Planning Project is one way that MSD is applying community service and community engagement strategies at the project level. And to connect to what Sandra the program Sandra was just talking about, it's in the California neighborhood that that the BOB teams canvassed this past year. So to give you a little bit of background on the area, our Maple Street is in the California neighborhood is within MSD's combined system. The map that you're looking at shows our combined sewers in red and the historic streams in blue with roads in the background. This area is a low-lying area that should have never been developed, but because when those combined systems were put in place, it provided drainage and the illusion of developable land, over 100 years ago, and so this area does flood and will continue to flood, and that's been part of the issue both for flood protection and our land use planning effort. Okay, let's see if I can go to the next slide. Okay, so what started all of this, the initiation of the project was we had a FEMA grant that's been underway. It all started in 2009 when we got 7.5 inches of rain over 75 minutes with widespread flash flooding across the county, but also it significantly hit West. It had significant impacts to West Louisville with boat rescues, and these are folks who are not adjacent to an inland stream or our Ohio River, and so the flooding was swift and severe and displaced a lot of residents. And keep in mind this is combined system flooding, so that added an additional hazard. So with the presidential disaster declaration, funding was made available through the FEMA grant program, and MSD utilized almost $10 million to acquire 128 homes, and through the buyout process we were able to acquire about 114 homes in that area because those were all voluntary buyouts. So this is the area that we're talking about. The blue parcels are those that were bought out as part of the grant, and so those are deed restricted, and the areas in green are publicly owned but do not have those deed restrictions, and so we've coordinated with other metro agencies as part of this land use planning process to take advantage of any publicly owned land that could be part of this process. So the question became, as we're approaching the end of our grant buyouts, was now that we own all of this property, what are we going to do with it? short answer or a go-to answer would be, well, if nothing else becomes of it, then it's property, vacant property that MSD mows. But the better answer is to find a use that benefits the community while honoring these deed restrictions and providing as much flood mitigation to the residents along the perimeter as possible. So this brings us to a discussion of what are MSD's core functions: wastewater, collection and treatment, stormwater, and reliable flood protection. So historically, MSD has not been in the business of creating community assets that are not aligned in this mission. But we did administer the grant buyout, facilitated an initial idea generation for appropriate use of the property, and have used this as a conversation starter to engage the public, bring in partners, because we have a great interest in making this more than property that MSD mows. So in helping bring people on board to share in our future goals in this effort, we developed a Community of the Future Advisory Committee, and that team had two main objectives. The first was to define a publicly acceptable beneficial use for these flood-prone properties. And the second was to define ownership options for end use, funding, construction, and long-term operation and maintenance. We selected from a very broad range of community members. We included residents, both within the FEMA buyout areas. As I said, that was a voluntary process, so there are some folks that chose not to sell, and they are the most impacted by this land use planning process. Community leaders, elected officials, local business owners. We had many agency partners that provided technical support as well. And we also hope this process would develop committed champions to help make any one of the concepts that were brought forward a reality. So then we went into a public input process to drive the planning efforts. One of the things that came out of our advisory committee was that none of us wanted to speak for the residents in the neighborhood, and we wanted to give them a voice and allow as many opportunities as we could to provide input on the process. And I have to say that it was a very challenging effort, but we received over 400 surveys back on input for these, for what the planning options would be. The very basic summary of what we surveyed on were 3 leave behinds: athletic fields, green space, and community gardens, as well as specific options within each of those categories. And we had them provide feedback on the suitability of each, as well as provide additional ideas and comments that may not have been in the original survey fields that were provided to the CFAC. We had several public meetings. We did a paper survey mailing, community events that included a yard sale and a 4th of July event in the neighborhood. We went door to door. We went to day camps at the YMCA as parents were dropping their kids off. And we also had the survey available online for folks that were not at those events or couldn't come to the public meeting. So that was successful, and it also it brought us to achieving that first goal of getting feedback on what the public wanted. And we were really happy with that. So because athletic fields ranked highly on nearly every survey, we also brought in JCPS, our public school system, and schools that don't have facilities in the area. Many of our West Louisville schools just don't have the space and have to lease fields that are very far away from their schools in order to provide practice and playing spaces for their student athletes. And that was actually a great opportunity. Those schools have a tremendous need, and they were really excited about the potential for this area to be utilized for their needs. So we've also reached out to our advisory committee and tried to establish key partnerships in order to focus our vision as an outcome of the public input surveys and all the work that we've done so far. We've reached out to primary stakeholders, anyone that could play a connector role, volunteer coordinators, as well as a fiscal agent in order to move forward. While the public schools determine their ability to participate, we still need other champions in order to move forward and further distill ideas and maintain that momentum. For a variety of reasons, MSD could not continue to carry that banner alone. For example, by buying the remaining vacant properties in the area that were not subject to the grant, and budgeting for a full design and construction of, and closing roads, things of that nature. So we challenged, at our last advisory committee meeting, we challenged members to help lead that effort. And it really, that can take many forms. So those stakeholders could be folks that have an interest, a need for programming capabilities, or even just the vision of what this space could be for the community and speak to that. Connectors that serve as an ambassador within their networks and could have an interest, like healthcare associations with a West Louisville focus, those in education, those in recreation. The volunteer coordinators were, if this plan comes to fruition, we will absolutely need folks that have the ability to rally the troops and help with tree plantings, playground assembly, whatever that becomes. And then the fiscal agent is also a huge need and responsibility, so that we have an entity, either a single entity or a collaboration of our champions that can receive funds, donations, apply for grants, things of that nature. So that brings us to just an overview of the area and several folks that we've reached out to as primary champions, and there's others that we've reached out to that have more of a secondary interest, and many are vested in this project just naturally because they are neighbors, and they are engaging in major developments nearby. So those new projects are bringing attention, energy, and new stakeholders to our Maple Street planning efforts. So that's exciting. So I can say that we're moving forward with momentum. We're meeting with these primary champions on a monthly basis, if not more frequently. Roles are being established. we're sharing the message, and our next steps are to vet concepts for this area, re-engage our public schools to get a more firm commitment from them, and consider additional property purchases and establish that fiscal agent that would purchase those other properties. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Very nice. I really, I like both presentations. I think this is really intriguing because it gives people in the community a real potential say in how this, parcel of land is going to be used. And without jumping too far ahead into our next speaker's presentation, I would say you're certainly not alone in having people in the community have a very strong desire for athletic fields in their areas. So with that, let me turn to our final speaker, Lisa Van Riper. Lisa is the Director of Enterprise Communications at Alexandria Renew Enterprises here in the DC area, and has been really instrumental in establishing a communications and outreach department at that utility, which is a really, really important part of their role and their kind of face in the community. So Lisa, thanks for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Can everybody see my screen? I just want to make sure we're good.
Great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And first, I want to say thanks to Jim and everybody at the EPA and NACWA and WEF. We are really excited and honored to be asked to present today. So we're going to start this off with transforming water to transform our community. That is actually on a sign when you walk into our environmental center. And that is what we do. And it goes back to what Jim had said earlier. We've gone from being a passive treater of water to throwing off our cloak of invisibility and providing community service and engaging with our citizens a lot more to get them engaged with water, our world's most precious resource. So just to give a bit of context about the city of Alexandria, Alexandria is a highly educated, has a highly educated population. It's a very green city. They have an Eco City charter. It leads the nation in millennial growth and also has a growing senior citizen population, people with fixed incomes. We also have an incredibly active citizenry. We have more than 200 homeowners associations and civic associations, and it's also a very digitally connected city. And about 40% of households have children under the age of 18. And we are Alexandria's water transformers. That is actually our brand. Our brand is we transform dirty water into clean water and reusable resources. And we also help to transform our community as well. And the four blue squares that you see here are our brand roles. And we're going to talk about some of the things mentioned under these brand roles as we move forward in the presentation. This is how we express our brand. It's a very simple way of explaining what we do. We do serve about 300,000 people. We clean about 35 million gallons of water a day. And then, of course, we go, we clean, he swims. So we go to the outcome of clean water and happy fish. So why go beyond compliance and transform your community? Why do community service? On this slide, you'll see we have our solar panels on our environmental center for energy efficiency purposes. On the right, you see our environmental center and the multi-purpose field on top of our nutrient management facility. It's now called Limerick Street Field, and there are so many citizens using that field every day. It's really wonderful to see. Below right, our odor control. We are in an urban setting, so we make sure we take extraordinary measures so that we don't, there are no odors. And then bottom left is our educational lobby in our environmental center, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that as we go forward. So we have a very committed and passionate board. We have a 5-citizen board that had a vision, and they envisioned a future where water can transform our community. Alexandria is a water-rich city with a history that dates back to 1749, its founding. And our board envisioned Alexandria Renew as being a catalyst and partnering with community organizations to enable our citizens to have a personal connection to local waterways, to support a healthy economy, and to educate and involve citizens so water stewardship is achieved through personal and organizational actions. And everything we do goes back to this vision and the strategic outcomes. And the community service part of our work really relates back to the second and third strategic outcome, which is community engagement and also watershed partnerships. So that is where we're going to be focused today. So to support a healthy economy and also ensure that we innovate for the workforce of the future, we have an apprentice program here at Alexandria Renew. And about a year ago, at the Rally for Water in DC, there was a statistic that one job created in water adds 3.68 jobs to the national economy. So not only are we helping our local economy, but we're helping our national economy with our apprentice program. Like many of you out there, we have a large retirement bubble of seasoned employees with over 35% of our workforce that could retire today. Our apprentice program has helped us to hire in 20 new workers. We've hired 20 apprentices since 2013, and they are in the area of operations and maintenance. And they learn to be electrical technicians, operators, and mechanics. And they work on our campus, and they go to school, and they get their certifications and their licenses. And as you can see in the upper right, they also are really great community ambassadors. Our apprentices help us a lot when we engage with the community at events on our campus and off. All right. So to also help the economy and to serve our citizens, we did a really cool thing where we integrated wastewater treatment needs into an innovation corridor in Alexandria where we are. So a few years ago, we needed to remove more nitrogen from the water that we released back into the Potomac River and the Chesapeake Bay. And so we had a program called the State-of-the-Art Nitrogen Upgrade Program, and the South Carlisle strategy was a part of that program. And we had to build an 18 million gallon nutrient management facility to manage our flows to our clean water campus. And that's the nutrient management facility is on part of a 5-acre site that's just west of our main water cleaning campus. The original plan back in 2010 was to build 5 65-foot tall silos to hold the water. That would have negatively affected the surrounding property, and through a partnership with a developer of the other part of the 5-acre site and the city of Alexandria, the original plan was transformed into one that provides great value for the community. They now have more green space and that field where you see soccer leagues playing soccer and people running right on top of our nutrient management facility. And By doing this, and we also, our environmental center is also a part of the site. It is Platinum LEED certified and has an educational lobby in it, among other things that I'll talk about too. But the Platinum LEED certification and the educational lobby were developed as part of community feedback when we were going through the approval process of this site. We had members of the community want us to have a LEED Platinum centerpiece or showcase for the community, and also a place where citizens could come in, of all ages, could come and learn about water. And also building this environmental center freed up 1.5 acres on our main plant site. So when we need to put more water cleaning infrastructure in, we have space, which is really important to us because, as you know, we're in an urban setting, and we actually have the smallest footprint in the U.S. for capacity and quality of clean water produced. And this whole project did a great thing for the community because it created green space and walking paths, which, you know, is what they wanted, and it's at a premium in an urban, in a city. Another thing that we did to provide community service to Alexandria and our customers was to create the Water Fund, and that helps to support a healthy economy and serves our customers. What this is, it's water assistance that empowers residents, and it's a partnership with the United Way of the National Capital Area that helps residents who are temporarily struggling to pay their bills. And every year at Alex Renew, we have a United Way campaign, and our team members can donate to the Water Fund. And we also, once we get our new customer care and billing system put in, we'll be able to offer our customers the opportunity to round up their bills and make donations as well. But what it is our customers, if they need a little bit of help, they go to our customer service provider, and then the United Way takes care of the rest. So we're really, and this was a request that we had from some community groups and from a member of our city council, and we definitely agreed that it would be the right thing to do for our city. Another thing that we do is we monitor water quality and biological communities in our receiving stream in our outfall. And this is through a partnership with George Mason University. They have this amazing Potomac Environment Research and Education Center. And our partnership with them started in 2013. And this partnership helps us know that our customers' investment in clean water is paying off, because they go out and they do different types of tests. And they show that the water that we release back into Hunting Creek, which is an embayment of the Potomac River, is healthy despite urban uses. So what you see here on the left are some of the sites where they did their studies and the fish that are living there. And on the right are the submerged aquatic vegetation areas, and it's very healthy. And that provides a healthy environment for aquatic life. And we continue to work with George Mason, both on this, and we're also starting a partnership with them on different community events, and we're excited about that. To go back to our board vision, to make sure that we're partnering with the community for water stewardship and, you know, making that connection with water, we go out into the community frequently and also invite the community in to see us. On the upper left, you see Moxie, the live version of Moxie, who is our mascot, and she does monthly story hours with preschoolers where she reads STEM books like Rosie Revere, Engineer. We also have an annual Water Discovery Day, and we had a few hundred people come to this past Water Discovery Day. We're hoping to have more. If any of you want to come, it's October 13th, 2018, and we're tying it in with Imagine a Day Without Water. So please come. We're partnering with Virginia American Water, which is the potable water supplier for the city of Alexandria, and also the city of Alexandria because they own the sewer collection system. We also go out to schools and participate in their STEM nights and STEM events, and we're working on a STEM curriculum for the Alexandria City Schools right now. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see we're at the Drug Take Back Day. We partner with the Sheriff's Office for that. And then on the bottom right is a Young Innovators Tour. These are kids that can't tour our campus because they're too young, so we program different things for them to do in our environmental center. We also participate every year in Alexandria's Earth Day, and we have all kinds of fun events. We promote things not to put down the drain. We do an experiment called Down the Drain where people can make dirty water and see how it gets cleaned in a very basic way. We give out different things that remind people to take care of their community's water. We also have a reclaimed water operation, which provides a community service because we're protecting and conserving potable water supplies. We actually reuse about 1.5 and 2 billion to 2 billion gallons of reclaimed water every year on our campus. And on the upper left is a little girl in front of our 7,000 gallon fish tank with native fish in our educational lobby that is filled with our reclaimed water. And then as you'll see moving across, there is our site with our environmental center and our multi-purpose field on top of our nutrient management facility. The green space next to our environmental center is irrigated with reclaimed water. Down below is our CEO, Karen, in front of our bio wall in our educational lobby. That is watered with reclaimed water. And then we all know about the purple pipes that are reclaimed water. We also use reclaimed water in an outdoor water feature. If you come by our environmental center in the warm weather months, you'll see it. It's lovely. In 2015, we planted an urban wildlife habitat through a partnership with the Cooperative Extension and their master naturalists in the city of Alexandria. And this was a way to use space on our campus and promote the outcomes of the work we do to clean water. So what we do, we maintain it with a master naturalist. Twice a year we have cleanups and plantings, and we're getting certified this spring. So it's going to be a certified urban wildlife habitat. There's more than 1,000 native shrubs and plants. And in the fall, we hope to have the master naturalist schedule classes for residents and maybe do some talks there since it is the largest native planting in Alexandria. We also serve the community by serving our first responders. We have a couple of buildings where the police and fire department train. And by providing a training ground for our first responders, we are helping our first responders be the very best they can be to save lives and keep our city safe. So on the left is one of our policemen in the city of Alexandria with his drug-sniffing dog, and they are in one of our buildings that we provide for training. And on the right is a house that the fire department built in the same building that they use for training as well. And we have the SWAT team come out and do training on our campus. So it's sometimes when they're out, it's a very exciting day at Alex Renew. But we really believe that this is a very important part of our partnership with the city. Providing low or no cost meeting space. So at the top of our environmental center on our 6th floor, we have meeting spaces, and we provide community and government groups with free space during business hours and low cost after hours. This has become very popular. We've had thousands of people come through our lobby and building, which is great because we're exposing them to our work and we're engaging with these people and building relationships with them. And by opening up the 6th floor, you know, we've introduced more members of our community to the importance of clean water and built additional awareness for what we do. And it's also fostered additional partnerships throughout the city and our community. So we've had some of our water industry partners come in. We've had the Alexandria Chamber come in. We have City Council come in and hold meetings in this meeting space. So if you're in the Northern Virginia area and you want a low or no cost meeting space, let us know. And we also created a mascot, Moxie, to communicate and create water stewards for all ages, but with a particular focus on school-aged kids. She was created in 2015 as a STEM-loving tween girl, and I like to say that Moxie is our CEO Karen when she was 14 years old. We have an acting teacher that plays Moxie, and she's fantastic, and she comes out to the different events that I spoke about earlier, and she does the Moxie Story Hours. And with Moxie, her hair represents the microbes that clean the water, and then her body is the water that's cleaned, and the lightning bolt in her hand represents the energy that's saved throughout our water cleaning process. So what are the benefits? These are just some of the benefits of doing this, of throwing off the cloak of invisibility and serving our community. One is that in the long term, it would be, we're hoping that more and more members of our community see their bill as an investment in clean water, not just a bill. Also, engaging our citizens in water quality leads to a greater understanding of the role that our community members play in preserving and enhancing our waterways. And it helps them understand the outcomes of our work. And it also helps them know who we are and what we do. It creates a cushion of goodwill out in the community. You know, if we, you know, knock on wood, if we have a crisis, we'll have people out there that know who we are, and there's goodwill out there that will help us. And there will be knowledgeable people who can speak on our behalf and who have confidence and trust in us and our work. We also, through all of our partnerships, we have engaged ambassadors who know us and can speak to our work and who are enthusiastic about clean water. Please stay in touch with us. We have a social media presence and our website. If you're interested, please follow us and visit our website. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Lisa, thank you so much. That was a very nice and very comprehensive presentation. I'm in the DC area, obviously, and I have been to Alex Renew, and it's a fantastic operation and does so much in the community. So that was excellent. So now we're going to turn it over to Jesse Birch and Rob Greenwood, my colleagues from Ross Strategic, who've worked with me for a number of years on many projects, to field the questions that have come in from the audience. It's never too late, so ask a question anytime. And so I'll turn it over to Rob and Jesse. Thank you.
Yeah, we can only second Jim's thanks for those wonderful presentations and to all of you for submitting your questions. Just a reminder for those of you who may have missed it at the beginning, in order to submit questions, you can open and close your control panel using that orange button at the top and submit questions through that chat box there. So feel free to submit those. We've got quite a few already, so my colleague Rob Greenwood will begin fielding those.
Great, thanks Jesse, thanks Jim, and thank you to our speakers as well. Okay, so we'll work through, again, as Jesse mentioned, we have several questions that have come in, and again, please feel free to submit additional questions. We're doing great on time here today. First question, Sandra, I'm going to go to you. And we have two questions that kind of overlap the same topic. It's are the Bob teams made up of strictly city employees? Who are the volunteers? And then if they're not strictly city employees, how are you recruiting and training those volunteers in advance of the actual event? So, you know, who are the volunteers, and to the extent that they're being drawn from a pool outside of direct city employees, how are you finding them, and how are you getting them ready to do the work you're asking them to do?
Okay, the volunteers are employees of Metro Louisville businesses, and so the Mayor's Office of Innovation is who reached out to the different businesses to see if they would want to partner in this initiative. So they reached out to different businesses, and it could be not just a utility, but it is businesses in local Louisville, local area of Louisville, Kentucky. As far as the training, the core team, I'm a member of the team, it's about 8 of us, and the core team is made up of individuals from some of the different businesses. We're the ones that we actually have training. It's sort of like the very morning of the BOB event. They arrive a little bit early, and we go through the whole steps and processes of what team leads and trackers of information, things like that. We do that training right before the BOB takes place.
Great, good. Thank you, Sandra. Let's see. So Stephanie, I'm going to move on to you. Sandra, I'll be back. There are some other questions for you as well. But Stephanie, just to again keep this moving around to each of you. So this question relates to the assessment that was done of different options for the use of the space that you had. So the question is, for the public planning efforts of the bought out space, the Market Festival area was rated more suitable than the community gardens. What additional challenges did the Market Festival area pose that caused you to end up with the community gardens instead? So that's kind of a specific question about, you know, kind of the alternatives that you looked at, and you know, you know, what kind of drove the choices you made.
Okay, so this may just be a clarification to what I said in my presentation, so I apologize if I wasn't clear. But the full land use plan, a detailed land use plan, has not been determined, and the options that we put out in our public input survey are all viable options. Because as you all could see by the map, the area is pretty carved up right now. We do have the potential to close alleys or even portions of roads in the future. We do have the opportunity to purchase some of the vacant properties that don't have structures on them and were not part of the FEMA buyout in order to get a more contiguous area. The reality is that the leave behind will be a combination of many of these options, especially if a complete contiguous area is not achieved. If there is one or two parcels that are out on the perimeter, that would be a good application for trees, something low maintenance. And then areas where we can get a more contiguous space to have community gardens or have a performance area or a stage or an amphitheater. We also have to consider the placement of some of these amenities because of the combined system surcharging and flooding, because we wouldn't want to put certain things right along that alignment. For example, a playground, or thinking about if we do community gardens, we would want that to be raised beds or an orchard, something that's elevated a little bit in order to protect those that are using those amenities.
Got it. Good. Stephanie, thank you. So Lisa, heading to you next. And we had two questions that were kind of overlap, so I'm going to ask them together. And it's really about sort of the cost of the programs. So it's, how much staff, dollars, and percent of budget is required for these educational / education activities. And in that context, how are you controlling sewer water rates with these education facilities? So it's kind of like, how much is this costing you, and where's the money coming from?
Okay, so a couple of things there. First of all, we have a very small budget, and our board is focused on stable rates. So everything we do supports stable rates. What we do with staff a lot of times is it's the communication staff, and we have volunteers from the state. We ask for volunteers. Sometimes with our hourly staff, we pay them, but it's a lot of volunteering. From a cost standpoint, for the multi-purpose field and the construction of the environmental center, those costs were taken care of through an innovative arrangement with the real estate developer, so that did not impact our customers. Our daily work to engage the community, when we do partnerships like partnering with Virginia American Water, we share the costs. We split it, so it really drives the cost down when you partner. And our focus is always on driving the cost down. So I can say that our budget is minimal, and through partnerships, we get the budget down even more. I hope that answered the question.
Great, Lisa, thank you very much. Stephanie, I'm going to bounce to you. A similar question, somewhat similar question came in during your presentation. So just because it's a kind of overlap with the previous one, I'm going to put it to you. So the question is, how are the administrative time and costs incurred by the utility that were not included in the grant justified outside of the enterprise account for sewer treatment and storm water? So again, it's the added costs of the effort that you're engaged in outside of the grant. How are you justifying that within the context of your sewer rates? That
is a really good question, and something that we've we've had to think about overall those costs have been pretty low because we've used primarily internal staff. We also have a facilitator that has helped bridge between the grant implementation, public input phase for land use planning, and coordinating with our champions. And that the contract amount for that is pretty low. But otherwise, we've used internal resources, and other than the public meeting, staff time at public meeting, and mailing costs for surveys, we've justified that just by, if this goes somewhere and we ultimately have a beneficial use for the community and something that is more than vacant land that MSD owns, then that's a huge win, both for the neighborhood and MSD and all the partners involved, and really it would save a tremendous amount of costs in the future just for maintenance of that property.
Great, thanks. Thanks very much for that response. Sandra, over to you. I'm going to do two questions to you here. The first one is relatively narrow, and then the other one is broader. So the quick question is, during the Bob, does your team pick up litter?
Yes, we do.
Got it. All right. And then the next question is, have you seen a measured improvement in community opinion?
Yes. What we usually do, let me go back to the first question. Another thing I want to add to that as far as the litter. We, in addition to having a team come out, an MSD team come out and do cleaning of the catch basins, which is the sewers on the streets, we also have a drainage team that comes out, and they are the ones that comes out with their truck and helps with picking up litter. So we've got as far as the teams themselves, it's kind of segmented out to teams. There's somebody who collects data. There's somebody who's on what we call the clean team. The clean team is who has the bags and the gloves and goes through and actually picks up trash and stuff. And it's our drainage team that comes through with their truck, and we toss these bags as they come through. What was the second question again?
Have you seen measured improvement in community opinion?
Well, we haven't done like a survey or anything to find out specifically how the neighborhoods are feeling about it, but we've had information like communication with the council district representative, and from their community meetings, there is feedback there. And yes, there's I think the main thing that neighbors are saying is that it's refreshing to see us out there just on a time where we're not actually cutting up the street and doing some type of sewer work. And so that's been the best feedback that we've had. They appreciate us coming through and just even asking about any kind of drainage issues or whatever, just on a regular day, not when it's raining or anything like that. So we've had some good feedback, but it's mainly come from the community meetings and strictly directly from the council district representative.
Great, thank you. Terrific. So Lisa, I'm heading in your direction. Question here, it relates to your water fund partnership with United Way. Question is, what would you suggest for a small utility to leverage our partnership with United Way to pursue something like your water fund? So it sounds like this small utility already has a partnership in place with United Way, but hasn't, that partnership doesn't currently reflect something like your water fund. So suggestions in terms of that?
Yeah. The way that we did it here was we met, there were a couple of gentlemen from the United Way of the National Capital Area, talked to your contacts, at United Way and tell them what you want to do. The United Way is set up to handle things like this. I'm not sure every United Way is, but they may be. And it's, you know, they will help with everything. They will help with getting the applications evaluated and dispersing the funds. And if you have an employee campaign, you know, they'll create the fund that your employees can donate to. So, and they'll also work with you if you have the ability to have your customers donate or round up. They'll work with you to, you know, have that money put in the fund as well. So really, it's just starting the conversation and seeing what's possible. When we were looking for a partner for our fund, our customer assistance fund, we looked at a variety of, we looked at a community foundation, we looked at a couple of other potential partners, but the United Way was the best one. So I would encourage the person asking the question to just talk to their contact and say, hey, I saw this. This is what we want to do. How can we do this? And if the question asker wants more information, they are more than welcome to email me.
Great. Lisa, thanks very much. Just a quick related follow-up question came in is, was wondering if the water fund is a separate 501c3 or if it is all administered through United Way.
It is administered through United Way.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So the next question is somewhat broad, and all three of you, I think, can speak to this. And so what I'll do is, Lisa, I'll give you a break. I'll start with Sandra, then go to Stephanie, and then to Lisa. But again, same question for all three of you. So here we go. So many of these efforts by nature are local and manual. Is anyone using digital portals or platforms and providing templates for surveys, educational programs, and engagement tools that can help us scale? So rural communities, here it says, so rural Montana, can reap the benefits of these great examples and technologies. So I think it's you know, really, you know, at the center of this question is just are materials and approaches emerging from your efforts that are sufficiently, that can be accessed and readily are ready for uptake by utilities that may be less well-resourced than you are. So let's see, so Sandra, to you first, then Stephanie, and then Lisa. Your thoughts on that?
Well, like I said, after the BOB ends, all the data that we collected along the way, like we have a person who's walking around with a iPad and it's got a program on it, and it's set up for this person to enter all services that were provided during the event. And this is services by every company that's there. So it's fire department, water, MSD, library. So any service that was provided during the BOB, that data is entered into that, and a final report is developed from that. So that's where we have our stats on how successful it was, or like I said, and how to do things better. So that report is available here in Louisville, but that's all we generate at this point is a final report. I hope I answered that question.
Great, thank you. Stephanie?
Yeah, so for Maple Street, I can't say that we have a whole lot automated or a template for our process, and we are learning as we go, and we are doing a good job documenting this process and results of the process, because there are several other West Louisville grants that we expect will need to have similar engagement in the future, because Maple Street was the first of several grants to be implemented in West Louisville. One thing that we already had at hand for this process was we have a structured public input on our capital projects that uses a PowerPoint and a system with clickers to allow public meeting attendees to vote as we present questions to an audience. And that application provides an output of what the results are. It actually has been a great tool for meetings that have community members that are upset or are there for a reason other than what the public meeting's intent is. And it also gives us great feedback on pieces of information that the community can provide input on, regardless of if it's this land use planning process or a design construction project. So because of what we've learned through that structured public involvement and clicker system, we were able to apply it to the Maple Street project, and that was really effective. That's also the same tool that we used to create the online survey, and then the manual piece was the printed surveys at the events and at day camps and that kind of thing. So
great, thank you. And Lisa, to you for wrap up
Sure.
on this question.
Sure.
We've got a few.
So having been in a variety of industries, I have to say that one unique and wonderful thing about the clean water and water industry is that everyone shares. So just a few thoughts on that. I will tell you that the Water Environment Federation, Travis Loop, the communications director, and his team have some great resources. And these are resources that we use as well. The Value of Water campaign, oh my gosh, they have a lot of wonderful resources. We also partner with our Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. They have a whole Protect Your Pipes campaign. And, you know, so try to use the association and water industry resources that are available to you, because there's a lot of great stuff out there, let me tell you. And if the question asker wants any templates or materials, just email me, and I'm happy to provide whatever he or she, whatever I can give to this person. It's really not an issue at all. So that's really my answer.
Good, great, thank you. So Lisa, I'm going to head back to you again.
Oh.
The question is, it says, Alex Renew has implemented a number of significant innovative wastewater treatment technology projects, and I was wondering if, you can describe any collaboration efforts you are engaged in, either with other communities, utilities, research organizations, or universities, or perhaps with community participation to advance technology innovation.
Oh, yeah.
So partnerships and collaboration related to technology.
Oh, my gosh. Tons of partnerships. So I guess the best example, and I apologize to the question asker because my background is communication. So if I'm technically incorrect, I'm sorry. But our mainstream Animox. So the whole Animox operation, when we implemented full-scale side stream Animox, and then we implemented mainstream Animox. That was a partnership with, universities. We have a partnership with a wastewater treatment facility in Denmark. We partner with DC Water sometimes. I'm trying to think. We have a couple of people on our team that do research, and we partner with, let me see, I'm trying to think, Columbia University, we have GMU. So we do, let me just say that whenever we are implementing a new technology, chances are there's at least one or two partners. And I think our Animox operation is an example of that. And I have a whole presentation about our partnerships on Animox that I'm more than happy to send to the question asker.
Great, Lisa, thank you.
You're welcome.
So you bet. So we've got a few minutes left here in terms of questions. So I'm going to merge here a couple of different questions, and I'll apologize to the question askers if I don't quite get this right, but I think there's a way to kind of push them together and get your all's responses. The questions, I think, are reflective of a concern or seeing a challenge with the dedication of utility resources outside of sort of core or conventional mission of the organization. And all three of the examples that you all have given fit that. And there was some interesting, I think, at one point, it might have been either Stephanie or Sandra. Oh, it was Stephanie said, we're creating community assets that are, that aren't like in alignment with our core mission. And so, you're kind of stepping out, but you are dedicating resources. And I think thematically behind these questions that have come in is basically, how are you justifying, how are you finding and then justifying the expenditure of these resources, again, on things that aren't tied to the direct core mission of clean water? So can I start maybe with Stephanie, go to Sandra, and then wrap up with Lisa on that one?
Absolutely. So I touched on this with a previous question, but for the Maple Street project, there is a lot of potential there. And now that the buyout process was successful and got a lot of folks out of harm's way by giving them the opportunity to relocate, that could have naturally been the ending point for this project. But it's a pretty big area, 17 acres broken up that MSD owns and now has to mow, and there's also a liability associated with that land because of how the parcels are laid out. It would not be received well publicly if we did something like fence off the properties. It was already a challenge through the grant buyout phase to acquire and demolish those homes. Frankly, it kind of got worse before it got better, and it is getting better. To the just one example was, our demolition crews would, after the closings, they would secure the home, board up closures, and we had 30 days to demolish the homes, and they would leave for the night or for the weekend, and looters would immediately come out and tear things down, pull out any copper, rip out downspouts, just really tear up and dumping litter and garbage and just furniture, you name it. And that's MSD's responsibility to clean up for as long as we own the property. So it is in our best interest to find a suitable alternative and one that benefits the public.
Got it. Thank you. Sandra, same question, and then to Lisa, and that we'll probably need to wrap up at that point. But go ahead, Sandra.
Well, I feel like the BOB actually, we wouldn't have a problem at all justifying what we do or any of the expenditures that go along with it. One of the things that MSD has that we haven't had in the past is the position that I'm in is actually new. I'm not new to the company, but the position is, and one of the components of it is community outreach. So this falls right in line with a type of community outreach, and I think everything that we're doing in it certainly falls along with, safe, clean waterways, keeping our neighborhoods clean and safe, and reaching out and building relationships with the constituents.
Got it. Good. And Lisa?
And my answer is very similar to Sandra's. It really is the fact that, clean waterways and water quality is everybody's, we all are stewards of our waterways. And so being able to do community outreach that helps our citizens learn how to take care of our waterways is a good thing, because then we're all working together for better water quality. And it's being able to inform and build relationships with the community so that we're all helping to keep our waterways clean and healthy. It's the outcome that you focus on. That's part of the way you justify why we're doing this. It really is about, we say that we exist to protect and enhance our community's water resources so that every local citizen can fish and swim in every city waterway. We do a lot of that work, but we can't do it alone. We all have to work together for clean waterways.
Good. All right. Well, thank you. And again, thanks very much to presenters. Thanks to all of you that submitted questions. There were a couple that we didn't get to. Feel free, I would say, to email direct to speakers to get those answered. So I'm going to turn things over here to Jim Horn from Office of Wastewater Management at EPA to close us out. So Jim, why don't you jump in, please?
Rob and everybody, thanks a lot. These were excellent presentations, and we love the questions. They just kept coming in. So I thought I'd just like to make a quick observation. I thought Lisa's response, and the responses from both the folks from Louisville were spot on. You can't obviously measure the benefits right at the time you're undertaking a lot of these programs, but they are building goodwill for the future at a time when you're going to need that goodwill, and there will be those times when you have crises at the system, or you need citizen support for some big investments that you need to make in the utility, which always happens. So it seems to me that these are well worth the investment of people's time and effort, and they do pay off in the long term. So again, thanks so much for excellent presentations. For those of you who are still on the webinar, we will provide the slides to you, and the webinar is being recorded, so that recorded version will be made available. We will also automatically invite you to the next one of these webinars, which is still to be planned. But again, thanks so much. We really appreciate your time and all the great questions and the great presentations. So have a great day, and thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.